All right, folks, you've read the thumbnail. If you're here, it's because, like me, you love your Legion Go 1. Price tags are out there. Legion Go 2 is out and about. And maybe you're not ready to upgrade like me. Maybe you like your Legion Go 1, and it's just missing a few features that really make it shine for you. So for me, I made a decision that instead of upgrading to the Legion Go 2, I wanted to do some upgrades to the Legion Go 1 in the hopes that I'd, keep it alive for a little longer. So this is an upgrade of its battery from the 45 milliwatt to the 81 milliwatt hour battery. I also do a back plate replacement because to change the battery to that big watts, you want to make sure that you have a little space in there to make sure it's able to handle the additional heat and all of that. And just for good measure, because I changed the backplate, I also replaced the original adapter to the SSD so that we can apply a 2280 SSD. So you can add obviously bigger SSDs that normally wouldn't fit there. So this is to do all those upgrades in one fell swoop. The controls, because they're offering the Legion Go 2's control scheme on the Legion Go 1, but for now, this is just to basically give it some new life, right? Put an 80 watt hour battery in there, 81 rather, watt hour battery in there, which will hopefully give it the ability to last much longer, obviously, and play games at higher wattages, higher TDPs, all of that stuff without worrying about your battery dying any minute now. As you can see, I'm already running the Xbox full screen experience on my Legion Go 1. That's the only weird little modification I have going on right now. Otherwise, no hardware mods have been applied. It's still running the OG battery. Same exact everything. But yes, we're going to get it started. We're going to shut it down and start the process of removing the backplate and getting this upgrade going. Let's go. Now be warned, if you are going to attempt this, the name of the game is patience. You're going to need to spend a lot of time doing a lot of finagling, and you're going to be very, very patient, or you might have some issues. As you see, I start with unscrewing the easily visible 6 screws that are right on the back there. Not hard to do, very easy to remove. I have my handy dandy iFixit toolkit that I've had for almost 20 years or so now. But yeah, for a job like this, you want to get something like that has all these extra little splunger tools and all these weird named things. And you know what I'm talking about because we're about to use them. You're going to see them come in very handy in a minute. And these are the tools I'm talking about. If you don't have yourself a pair of these, it is time you seek some out if you plan on doing this kind of a project. It's not difficult to do with the right tools, but you definitely will need a good pair of tools that you can use to help you pry your way into the device without necessarily destroying or scratching the device in a way that you don't want. So I use this tool to just work my way in. I had a little trouble in the beginning, but it doesn't take too long, and I'm able to get in there and are able to take the basically the whole back plate off just by using these plastic tools. You need to just find a way to wedge one in there, and by doing so, it then gives you an opening to then work your way around and systematically just remove all of them. And here's the battery. But remember, this is a very, very patience-inducing situation. If you mess up once here, you may pull out cables you don't want to pull out. You may remove ports that you don't want to remove. So slow and steady is the way forward on this one. So basically, what we're doing here is to just make sure we're going through and very patiently moving all the cables from the little chassis here so we can remove that chassis without it necessarily unplugging anything or disconnecting anything. As you can see, there's even a cable associated and directly attached to that chassis. So we have to be super careful not to take it off when we're dismantling it. So I'll leave it hanging there. But here's the very key important part. People have been complaining throughout this process about how to remove the battery. And this is the key important part of this process. If you do it wrong, this is where you'll have a very bad time. As you see, it's just got two little tabs in the back that I used a tool or something thin to dislodge, right, to expose, and then it's just a matter of pulling it slowly. What I have found and others who have tried this is they pull it fast and they use maybe a tool, a pry tool of some kind, or pliers or something. And in so doing, they pull that tab too quick and it rips off. And now you have a bunch of the stuff extra still attached to it, causing there to be a lot of issues. So this is the way to do it. This is the key to making sure this process works. Slow and steady, slow and steady. It will completely remove all of the adhesive on both sides, and you'll have to do that twice. So you can watch me go through that right now. And here we go with that second piece removed. Now the battery literally just falls out. It's very, very easy. And there it is. It's out. And of course, if you compare the old to the new, it's considerably bigger than the old one. So it will fit. It does fit even without any kind of modifications, but you do want to maybe change your back plate because it is pretty big. Also, as you see, because I've had my Legion Go for some time, it's built up a little bit of dust. So I figured, now that I have the case open, why not go ahead and clean that? So I used my little handy dandy PC blowing tool there that you see to just clean up some of the dirt and the fans and stuff. If you're a Legion Go user, you know that those fans can blow pretty fast and pretty loudly. Cleaning this up the way that I did it here will ensure that moving forward it'll be a little quieter. You know what I mean? I wouldn't recommend doing this on a monthly basis, but if you have the back plate open and you have the opportunity to do some cleaning, this is the perfect time to do so. And it does translate to cooler conditions and just better sound overall. Now it's time to install our battery. I initially thought that I'd need some double-sided tape, but since the battery is somewhat bigger than the original, it did fit snugly in that location without any additional adhesive that I would need. I actually even ended up, if you look on the other side of the bracket, which you'll see me do this later, there's some cushions on that side of the bracket that because this battery rather is such a much taller than the original, those cushions on that bracket were a little too high, making it difficult to screw this thing in. So I even had to go in and shave down those cushions on the inside of the bracket. So it still gets the job done. I've seen some tutorials out there recommending that you cut the brackets or remove the back brackets totally. I didn't find that was necessary here because I wanted to keep everything clean. I wanted to still have that cable management so that it ultimately it worked out. So you can see me working this together right now to get it back in. Ultimately, I was able to put the cable management right back exactly the way it's supposed to go. And you should be able to as well. 81 milliwatt hours is a big battery, but as you can see here, ultimately I was able to put everything back exactly where I found it, get the screws back in, getting it all cleaned up. So I felt confident that I could close the case. And like I said before, as you can see, because the battery is so big, I had to remove that cushion on the inside of that bracket in order for it to sit more snugly on the battery so I can screw it in. Ultimately, I found what worked was I screwed the bracket rather, back into position, and then I reworked the cable management to get everything back the way it was. Before screwing it in, I wasn't able to make it work. And obviously, I'm trying to be very careful so I don't unplug anything. I have big man hands, so once things are unplugged in such a small chassis, getting things to be plugged back in is sometimes a little fun. I will tell you that I even had a bit of an issue plugging the power back in to the battery when it was all said and done, because it's very tiny. So you want to be very careful when you're doing all that. But ultimately, it all worked out. All right, so here's the final piece of this process before we can put the back plate on and test it out. This is the 230 to 280 adapter for the SSD. So right now, to finish this process, we would have installed the SSD back where we initially found it. But because we want to be able to install bigger SSDs, the 280 format instead of the 230, we're going to install this adapter that will then allow us to basically use those other options. All right, with that done, it's now time to basically put on the backplate. But in order to do that, you need pieces from the old backplate to build the new one. So what you're seeing me do now is unscrew the 6 hinges, actually more than 6 screws. It'll actually end up being, I think, 12 screws when it's all told, I think. Unscrewing the hinges, unscrewing the various brackets, because you'll end up reinstalling them on the new backplate. Yes, it's 3D printed, but it's a pretty clean and decent new backplate that's been created for it. Ultimately, you want that new backplate because it all allows for those bigger SSDs, and it also has a lot more ventilation to allow for more airflow, being, of course, that you now have this a huger battery in there generating more heat and taking up more space. So it was important that I replace the backplate with a backplate that had a bit more room to breathe in it. And in order to keep the coolness of the Legion Go, which is its great hinge and its ability to have a great kickstand, I had to take some of these parts from the original kickstand idea, the original hinge idea, and then just apply them to the printed new backplate. With the new backplate pieces in place and the screws all in, I've created the kickstand. It's all good now. Now we can put the new backplate on the case. Before we do so, of course, we're going to have to cut away some of the shroud because that shroud was protecting the SSD. Since we now have an SSD adapter, that's kind of in the way. And of course, with the battery being as big as it is, everything is at a premium as far as space in there. So anything we don't need, we have to cut away. Anything we can't use, we have to remove to give that space. As I said before, getting the power button, the power plug rather, back in was a bit fun. Was a bit challenging to do because when you're putting it in and it's very small, it makes it a little difficult. But ultimately, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It took me using a bit of tools, but I got it back in there. And as you can see at this point, the cable management is back in place. It's not very hard to do. You just have to remember how it was before it was disassembled. There are a lot of tracks on the brackets and built into the system, as you can tell when you first open it. All you got to do is follow those tracks, and you could put those cables right back where they were. But of course, it's very important that you don't disconnect any of those cables so you know exactly where they were in the first place. So for this build, I was lucky. I was able to keep everything in place. Nothing was disconnected during the process of the sun install. And now we're putting the case, the backplate rather, on there. As you can see, the reason why we did the hard drive upgrade, the adapter upgrade rather, is that it then is able to give you the option to put the same hard drive back, which I will, but another day I will, once I've purchased the new hard drive, I'll most likely come here and then I'll be able to have a very easy time of just upgrading that hard drive to the newer taller hard drives or the longer hard drives, right? This adapter makes it easy moving to a new, more powerful or more storage capacity SSD down the line. Makes it quite easy, as you can tell. So once we have it all in place, we'll screw it all down, and then we'll put the original SSD back in, because even though it's not the tall 280, it still fits 230s even with the adapter. So now here's where I hit an odd snag. I've heard others talk about avoiding this by going into the BIOS ahead of time and disabling the ability to turn this thing off without, or on rather, without another method. Otherwise, you might accidentally turn it on in the middle of the install process. I felt like I was a little bolder than that, so I didn't do that precautionary step, and indeed, I turned it on in the middle of the process. As you can see, I had it on. The screen was blank, still in the middle of the install. I don't even have the hard drive in yet, so the screen was blank, but ultimately I pressed the power button for about 30 seconds, kept holding it down, and then it powered back off again. Ultimately, it didn't change anything. If you know your way around a Windows PC, if it doesn't have a hard drive in it, worst case scenario, it would pass post. It would get, show you that logo screen and then get stuck saying there's no hard drive found or something like that. So because that was the case, I didn't feel it necessary to disconnect the power button and all that, because then you'd have to go back in and undo it and all that. So long story short, if you turn this thing on in the middle of it, it's not a big deal, provided that you've taken care of all the other parts of it as far as cabling and whatnot. You should be able to just power it right back off and finish your process, turn it back on when it's done, and it shouldn't have any adverse effect. With the backplate finally secured, I think we can have a quick conversation about this, because honestly, while I like it, and these backplates are a dime a dozen, I feel like it's missing something. As you can see, there's a little bit of space there. You can see some of the inner workings there. And of course, there are a dime a dozen both on Etsy and on eBay, on Amazon. Chances are I'll give this a good try, work with this case for some time, but if it gets to a place where I'm just not feeling it, I may just replace it with a different backplate. And the moment of truth, just so you know, if you're doing this, the first time you hit the power button after a power cycle like this where you've disconnected the battery, it may take some time for the BIOS logo to show up. It may take some time for it to actually start functioning as you're aware, as you're used to, but don't get discouraged. It just takes time for it to pass post the first time you do something like this. You might get scared that it didn't pop up. For a moment, a brief moment, it crossed my mind, but ultimately it's all good. As you can see, it turned on. And just to make sure the battery is healthy and that everything configured right, ran a built-in battery test and all is well. It even looks like it has one cycle because obviously it's a brand new battery. And through this report, I was also able to verify that it is in fact an 81.5 milliwatt hour battery. So there you have it. Ultimately, this video ended up being a little longer, so I appreciate everyone who tuned in and checked it out all the way through to the end. I really enjoy putting these kind of videos together, and if you enjoy watching them, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment in the description. Planning on releasing more handheld focused content, so until the next one, happy gaming.